Dear flower, welcome to the second month of blooming mail. This is what you'll receive in your April blooming mail: your wire, your crepe paper and your template, as well as obviously other goodies such as stickers, quote cards, a photo print, a worksheet and a personal letter connected to the flower of the month. You'll notice that you have different sized pieces of crepe paper for this project, and I'll explain these as we go. Of course, you also have your template to cut out before you get started. And we'll start first with the petals, which are made from the pink crepe paper. And you'll see in the video that I am stretching the pink crepe paper out fully. And then I use this method of folding the paper around the petal template in order to cut multiple petals all at once. For the cherry blossom stem, you'll be making 5 flowers, each with 5 petals, so you'll need 25 petals in total. I suggest that you fold as many times as you can reasonably cut out each of your petals easily with the scissors that you have. I tend to try to be quite ambitious by folding it multiple times, so I get quite a large number all at once, but I wouldn't really suggest doing that if your scissors can't cut through properly, because you end up then having to adjust each petal individually afterwards. Once you've got all of your petals, and as I mentioned, you need 25 for each of the flowers that you are going to make. Once you've got all of those cut out, just put them to the side, and we are going to move on to the next part of our flower, which is the center. Now the center is going to be using the cream paper, and we're not going to stretch this out first. We are going to fold it, cut the strips that we need, and then stretch afterwards. And you obviously need to do this 5 times in order to get all of your center strips. And you'll see that by stretching out one piece, we can fold it in half and cut 2 center pieces. And from there, we are then going to create the fringe. I would cut them quite close together, so we've got quite a fine fringe for each one. And just make sure that you are cutting the fringe all on the same side, otherwise you end up with a very funky shape. And once you've done your fringing, then you're just going to grab a brown marker. You can do this in black or another slightly dark color, and just color in the tips of the fringe. And you do that for all of the 5 centers that you need for this project. And then put those to the side. Now you grab your larger piece of brown paper, and this is going to be used for the stems. We are not going to worry too much about the length at this stage, because you can trim any excess out later, but cut your strips before you stretch out the paper. So once you've got your strips cut out, then stretch them out, and you'll see obviously that they much more double in size from how they were originally. And you just put those to the side so that you can use them for your stems. Next we'll be doing the sepal, which is quite a small piece, so it's a bit fiddly. But you're going to do the same as what we did with the petals. So we're going to stretch out the paper fully first, and then we're going to use the template of the sepal to do the folding technique in order to create the pieces that we need. Roughly you'll need about 5 or 6 for each flower. So again, I did I think 25, and then I felt like I needed a few extra, so I cut a few more afterwards, but 25 should be a good starting point for you. And you can see that I've just cut off the top of that one, which can also work and be used as a stem for one of the flowers as well, even if it's not as thick as the template. Now once you have all of your pieces together, we're going to start shaping each of our petals. Now this is the part that I love the most because it is so relaxing, and you really start to see how beautiful the petals will look. And the way that you shape this is essentially pinching the bottom of the petals and twisting them between your thumb and index finger. And then in order to round off the shape, you're just going to use both of your thumbs and holding the petal gently, and to create that kind of rounded bit in the center of the petal, as I'm showing here repeatedly with these different petals that I'm doing here. This is obviously sped up slightly, but take your time and enjoy the process, because this is one of the most beautiful things about the ability to create your own flowers, is the time that you have in shaping each part of the flower to how you want it to look. Now that all our petals are shaped, we're going to add a little bit of texture to our centers by rolling each one between our palms. And as with the daisy, this step is optional, so you can feel free to just skip it altogether if you prefer. It just gives it a little bit more dimension, I feel, because it separates each of the cut fringe parts from one another, so it just gives a slightly different effect. Now we have all of the pieces that we need in order to create our flowers, and we're going to start to assemble each of the flowers. So we're going to start with the 4 shorter pieces of wire that you have in your letter, and we're going to begin attaching your center to the wire. If you're using a glue gun, I find it easier to work in small amounts as it dries very quickly. But if you're using regular white glue, spread the glue along the bottom of the center below the fringe, and be mindful that it just takes a little bit longer to dry. So hold the center firmly against the wire first, and then keep it tight as it holds its shape as it sets, as you create that center of your flower. And you can fluff up the top like I'm showing here in order to create the shape. Now once your center is in place, you can start attaching your petals. Overlap them slightly as I'm showing in the video, in order to ensure that all 5 petals fit around the center. And once the glue has dried, you can then adjust each petal into position as you like, now that it's attached to the stem and to the center. So you can see that I'm just, as I'm putting it in, I know the glue gun dries very, very quickly, but still just give it a bit of a pinch where the glue is to the, and where it's going to be holding onto the center, just to ensure that it's stuck on properly. Now in order to add the sepal, I find it easier to turn the flower upside down and then to add the sepals. And essentially what the sepal does is it covers the bottom base of the flower to give a much neater finish. So all I'm doing is adding a touch of glue at the bottom end of one side of the sepal, and then attaching it to the bottom of the flower. And you just repeat that as you go around, and they don't need to overlap, although if you want an overlapped look, that's perfectly fine. You'll just need more cut out pieces in order to fit that. And then we're going to take our strip of brown paper that is for our stems, and the most important bit is always to ensure that the stem is attached correctly to the top of your flower, in order to cover the bottom of where your sepal is as it attaches onto the wire. And this is just to ensure that everything stays in place. Now, the easiest technique for getting your flower stem as neat as possible is to hold your flower with one hand. As you can see here, I'm holding it with my right hand as I'm twisting, and having my other hand holding the stem paper downwards at an angle and rolling it that way. And that means that you get a slightly less thick end around your wire. Now your fifth flower will go at the top of the longer piece of wire that we have. This is what is going to create the main stem, where all the shorter flower stems will be attached to create the full cherry blossom branch. Now assemble this final flower in exactly the same way, with only one difference, that as you work through your stem, as I'm doing here, what you will do is then we'll start to attach the shorter stem of flowers as we go. So you'll see here that I'm attaching the first flower onto our main stem, and then making sure that that's in position, gluing the stem around that a little bit, and then adding another flower. And I try and do this so that I'm attaching them so that they're not all facing the same position, and you can attach them as close to the top of your stem as you want. I've left it so that there's a bit of a gap so that I can shape the way in which they move direction. But you can see here I'm attaching all of the flowers as I go down, so that I can adjust them afterwards. Keep working the stem paper all the way down until all 5 flowers are attached, and it should look like something like this. And from here you can bend and adjust the stems and individual flowers however you like to get your perfect cherry blossom. To subscribe to Blooming Mail and receive your monthly flower letter each month exploring a new flower, then head to www.bloomingmail.com and start creating your own flower garden. To subscribe to Blooming Mail and receive your monthly flower letter with everything that you need in order to create that flower of the month, then head to www.bloomingmail.com and start your journey in growing your own flower garden. you.